You know, sometimes people ask me how I make my videos. Well, it's no movie magic. I've learned my craft such as it is from watching movies and reading and lots of videos. But for me, a good movie has to tell a good story, regardless of how long it is or what the subject is. I start by coming up with an idea, usually something or someone I find interesting, or it could be something I've done or seen or heard, maybe somewhere I've been. Once I decide on the subject, I determine whether it'll make a good video or not. Some subjects adapt better to print than to do videos. And those that adapt to print, I frequently will write them up for my blog. Now let's look at this video, Skymaster Down, and how it came to be. In the backside of my memory, I remember a dope-laden airplane crash near where my father used to live, and when he was a child, in 1979. I'd written about it with certain humorous enhancements for my blog, and the link is in the video description. So I began my research. I checked out internet sources. You know, the internet has information about virtually anything. Then I contacted family members that may have been in the area when it happened. I interviewed some of them. This led me to search newspaper archives in that particular local area. In one of them, a research librarian looked at the newspaper clippings or newspapers they had on file and said, the airplane is in a different place in this photo than where it was when I saw it. The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has information on aircraft, and by telling them you can determine where they were. I found this one, DC-4, had been in a storage hangar in France before it was bought by the dope runners. No doubt all of this information would have made a great print article, but I wanted to make a movie. And in a movie, you have to have movement. That's why they call them motion pictures. So first, I wrote a script. My big problem after I'd written my script was how was I to tell the information in an interesting manner. Of course, we could have a talking head like this, but I didn't think it would keep people's interest that long. So I decided my vehicle would be in the form of creating a scrapbook. I would simply be cutting articles out of newspapers and stuff and sticking them in a scrapbook while I did the narration and told you what was going on. I found still pictures and copyright video to illustrate the story. Prelinga Archive provided the airplane footage. I learned how to produce animation for the crash sequence, and I made some small props to use too. My video was a combination of many sources and many different talents either I had or I had to learn. It is based on facts, though maybe a little bit of creative license was used to better tell a story. I considered it successful. It has over 2,000 views to date. And you can check the link to watch the video for yourself. If you were walking along this road on November the 19th of 1979, you would have heard the roar of an airplane overhead. It would have been very close and almost running out of fuel. It was a big plane too, but that was not unusual. But why here? The nearest airport, McCormick County Airport, was over 12 miles away. On this foggy Monday morning, a plane crashed right here on Tom McComb's land along State Road S3338 near Highway 28. It was a DC-4, a Skymaster, also known as a military C-54, the big brother to the DC-3 Goonie Bird. It clipped the tops of the trees at about 200 miles an hour. The wings were sheared off, and the nose buried itself. Then it caught fire. A DC-4 is not a small airplane. It has 4 engines and a wingspan of 117 feet. At least 2 men are required to fly it. And on that foggy morning, daybreak, one crashed 12 miles from an airport. Soon after the plane crashed, local folks rushed to the scene. There were all sorts of folks there, including these older ladies from the nearby town of Troy. Many had grocery bags and were picking up some of the contents of the plane which had spilled onto the ground. What were they picking up? They were picking up marijuana, pot. What was the probability of local marijuana smugglers knowing the plane was carrying pot? Unless they knew beforehand that it was a smuggler's plane. As soon as law enforcement arrived, the area was cordoned off. 2 charred bodies were pulled from the wreckage and were sent to the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston for identification. Early newspaper accounts erroneously reported that there was a man and a woman in the aircraft, but both pilots were male. They were identified as James R. Davis, 56, of Sherman Oaks, California, and Jack Ludelius, 43, of Homestead, Florida. Davis had 24,200 hours of flight experience. He was no rookie. Ludelius was a regular pilot for Jamaican Air. They found this in the cockpit. On board the plane was over 7 tons of marijuana, valued at $6.5 million in 1979 dollars. 209 75-pound bales were scattered over the wooden area. A scrap of newspaper from Bogota, Colombia was found. Some of the bales were wrapped in newspaper. It was assumed that the flight had originated there. However, later reports said it likely came northeast of Bogota, a city named Riohacha. Pilots normally earn from $50,000 to $70,000 for such a flight. A pilot could earn as much in one flight as he would earn in a whole year as a regular airline pilot. They would avoid Florida's radar and fly under the coastal radar to enter South Carolina. The confiscated marijuana was taken to a woodyard in McCormick and destroyed. But 900 pounds of the drug, worth over $373,000, was not recovered. That was enough for every resident in McCormick County to have over 8 marijuana cigarettes. But whose plane was it? In 1981, in a lawsuit involving Tiburon Aircraft Incorporated of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Tom McCombs, Tiburon claimed the plane had been stolen by the pilots. According to the court, Tiburon could not prove the theft had occurred. Owners of Tiburon was Thomas King Edenfield of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Edenfield's name would show up in newspapers when he was arrested in a huge cocaine smuggling operation in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Why did the plane crash? The report from the National Transportation Safety Board stated the weather was foggy and the number 3 engine was out. They concluded, however, that the probable cause of the crash was pilot error. Rumors abound. One person said that a gasoline delivery truck was seen frequently in the area. In 1979, the country was in the middle of a conversion to the lower octane lead-free gasoline for automobiles, but 100 octane was still available. The 1,200 horsepower Pratt & Whitney engines on the DC-4 could operate on 100 octane automotive gasoline. One rumor said a construction company from Greenwood, South Carolina, built the airstrip. Here are some interesting details from a Facebook post. The plane was supposed to land on James Tate Farm in McCormick. It didn't land on it because someone forgot to get up and light the landing lights, causing it to miss the location and run out of fuel, crashing. According to this post, Tate was prosecuted and subsequently sentenced to a prison term. A number of people were arrested for income tax evasion. People who suddenly become wealthy tend to always arouse suspicion. When a man earning near minimum wage buys a racehorse, eyebrows are raised. But the mysteries remain. There were no newspaper stories of arrests in the local newspaper. What local people financed the operation? It would have taken someone who had access to large amounts of cash. The Colombians only dealt in cash. Common practice was to send cash to the suppliers and they would ship the goods. A newspaper article some 25 years later stated that there were no arrests for the crime, but the Facebook post refutes this statement. Some say The finances of the operation were the very pillars of the community. And people still speak in hushed tones about the crash.